happened in the year of 1999 there. We have a videotape of a girl that went in that school in the 1980s. You ought to see what 2020 did. They did a film on it. I got that film.
2020 went into this same high school.
In the 1980s, what the shit, this crap they've been pulling in that damn school. Even their teacher has no idea.
You don't actually see the teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We have that video.
oh,
It's all on 2020. It was filmed.
so this is back in the 80s. This school
Yeah,
was a
and they
little
talked
strange.
about prickly glass and witchcraft and, how you can die and, there's no such thing as wanting to live because it's better to die, and it's just awful. You'll have to listen to it. And it goes along with the textbooks and all the witchcraft in the textbooks.
Would it surprise you to know that this fall, your youngster may take a field trip to a funeral home, visit a mortuary where cadavers are laid out for embalming? It can happen. Welcome to the startling, the shocking death education.
Today with them, to touch it, to feel it, to smell it, to know that it's real.
The proponents of death education in the public schools believe they can help prepare kids to deal with the emotional distress and grief of death with some special training. But the problem, many experts say, is that these courses can stir up emotions in some youngsters that ordinary classroom teachers are not adequately trained to recognize or cope with.
The death ed teacher here at Paint Branch High, Phil Campbell, is not a psychologist, but he's using a therapeutic technique. The students are encouraged to enter a trance state, and reflect on the loss of a close relative or friend.
To a place where you've experienced a significant loss, a death of a friend, a suicide, a suicide, a suicide.
Students relive intensely emotional experiences. Avis loses control. Her grief over her father's death has resurfaced. Other students have similar reactions. Psychologists say inducing a trance state is potentially dangerous and may cause unnecessary trauma when conducted by an untrained person. When conducted by an untrained person. Campbell, a sociology teacher, attended a one-day workshop on adolescent grief and admits he's not personally trained to deal with a possible emotional crisis like Avis has experienced.
These days on television and with crack and violence in the streets, isn't there a need to educate them younger about death?
It sounds like one of those things, Tom, that would be a good idea, except empirically it's just not working out that way. See, these interventions aren't powerful enough. They're not therapeutic enough, if you will, to keep the troubled kids out of trouble, but they are powerful enough to draw the untroubled kids into becoming trouble. They are powerful enough to draw the untroubled kids into becoming trouble.
Tara Becca believes she was seduced into a suicide attempt by her death ed class. 6 years ago, Tara was a junior at Columbine High in Littleton, Colorado. Her English literature teacher began weaving her own beliefs on reincarnation into the classroom discussions of death.
This is what this teacher is teaching. When you die, you get all the knowledge that God has, and then you're recreated. You come back again in another life form, and you have all the knowledge that God knows. And for a person like me that definitely loved to learn, that was exciting. Wow, I get to learn everything God knows.
Was death taught to you here as being something terrible, something to dread?
Oh, no. No, it was exciting. It was something to look forward to. It was definitely very appealing. It was an escape.
Tara finally decided she wanted to escape and saw death as the only solution to her typical teenage problems. Then she searched the nearby Rockies for a suitable cliff to drive over.
It was the only way I could get free from myself. I would no longer be in bondage, and this is what the teacher and everybody in the class was talking about.
After carefully planning her own suicide, Tara drove home for one last visit.
My dad met me at the front door, and they could see that I was definitely not with it. I was saying things like, "It's not really me. It's not really me. It's not really me." And my mom and dad knew that there was something desperately wrong, so they took me to the hospital and put me in a psychological area of counseling so that I could get some help.
School has refused to comment on the case, other than to say the course had nothing to do with Tara's problems.
I mean, without this class, might you not have been a candidate for suicide?
I had thought about it as a possible option for a lot of years, but I never would have gone through with it. Never, because I wasn't brave enough. The things that we learned in the class taught us how to be brave enough to face death. The things that we learned in the class
taught us how to be brave enough to face death.
What makes us think that American education is going to do a good job teaching death education? We ought to be trembling about the fact that the schools, which have failed to teach academics, are now presuming to teach matters of life and death.
If you'd like to feel the difference between life and death, you can touch them. The difference between life and death, you can touch them. You can touch them. You can touch them. You can touch them.
You can touch them.
Graphically introducing death to impressionable young minds is at the core of the controversy over death education in our public schools. Will students walk away from here with a clearer understanding of death, or with nightmarish memories that might haunt them for life and perhaps inadvertently suggest death as an answer to adolescent problems?
Know that this is being taught in each case.
That's a major problem, Hugh, that schools teaching these courses without letting the parents at home know, parents either individually or collectively as a group, if they're concerned about this, to go to their school to find out if death ed is being taught. Also, is it an option for the kids, or are they being pushed into this by parents? Know whether the kids are emotionally ready for it. Whether the kids are emotionally ready for it. Know whether the kids are emotionally ready for it.
You know, in sex education, a lot of experts feel that questions should be honestly answered, but that to load a lot of information that's unasked on little kids is probably...
On a young mind, it is a heavy burden to get into that type of subject, including death.
Walk away from here with a clearer understanding of death, or with nightmarish memories that might haunt them for life and perhaps inadvertently suggest death as an answer to adolescent problems. And perhaps inadvertently suggest death as an answer to adolescent problems.
Just the adolescent problem.